For too long, we've held ourselves so rigid to rules, both in the industry and in society. And we've forgotten the power of fluidity, the power to continue to ask yourself, does this feel good? Is this still aligned for me? Because what is so magical year after year after year and inevitable is your growth and your getting to know yourself in a deeper way. That's the whole point of this journey, my friends. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hello, I'm Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy. And if you are a woman who is working so hard to support, to serve, to heal, to take care of the world around you and your patients and your team and your family, then my friend, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Today is going to be a beautiful day. Today is going to be a beautiful, ecstatically incredible day if you allow it. Every day has that possibility. And I say this at every podcast, and I keep reminding you, you get to experience the day that you choose. It doesn't matter. Things will go wrong. There will be loss. There will be disappointments in the day. It doesn't matter what the day brings. You get to choose to see it as an opportunity for learning and experiencing this one bold and beautiful life. And we know that in dentistry and in medicine, we get exposed to a lot. This podcast is your home to give you perspective, to give you permission to see things in a slightly different light so that you can choose to take the lesson and leave the pain. You know, as we go into this next phase of the year ending, the last few days of 2025, so many times we use this time as reflection and setting intentions for the new year. And although I love that practice, although I love any opportunity, I don't think we necessarily have to wait until the first of the year, but it's a great opportunity to reconnect with what it is you really desire. It's a great opportunity to ask yourself, what no longer serves me? What can I leave behind in the year past? And what do I really desire and want to focus on? What do I want to call in and experience in the year ahead? So I think it's an awesome opportunity to ask ourselves those questions. And sometimes what it can bring up for us are some wounding patterns that we fall prey to, especially in healthcare and business and dentistry. And so I'd love to call those out now and to give you permission to look at this completion of the cycle of this year in a slightly different way and to welcome yourself to step into the new year with a perspective of empowerment and not disempowerment. Okay, so what am I talking about? I don't know if you're anything like me, but I know that in the past, when I've looked at my business, my ortho business, and when I've looked at my coaching business, when I've looked at the year or my body or my wealth or the money I have in the bank account or my relationships, and kind of assessed how's it going for me? You know, when I look at all those aspects of my life, I love to do that. Let me just take a little roll call here. How am I doing? How am I feeling? How's my body feeling? How am I feeling about myself financially? How do I feel about my family and my relationships with my friends? How do I feel in my business? And when I've done that, sometimes I've leaned into comparison. And so I welcome you to just recognize how really toxic comparison can be. So how do we do this? How do we navigate looking at the year past and wanting to step into something new and exciting and empowering in the next year and not fall prey to comparison? Because isn't that what we do, right? We tend to look at everyone else around me. Let me assess how I'm doing based on how everyone else is doing. And in dentistry, that is such a very loud voice that we hear from so many people, whether it's our accountants or financial advisors or consultants or patients or Instagram or colleagues. Whenever you go to conferences, how's she doing? And we ask people to stand up on stage. Would all the diamond providers stand up? There's always this constant comparison in everything we do in dentistry. And when we do that, we actually rob ourselves of an opportunity to really know what's true for us, for our personal selves, for you. What I'm talking about is discernment, the importance of discerning what matters to you. And comparison really robs us of that. As soon as we start playing into the noise of what is she saying? What is he thinking? What do I think he's thinking? How do I compare to other people? How is she doing in her business? We detach from the truth of what is most important to ourselves. In my life journey with medicine and dentistry and business ownership, I found that the times when I was so disconnected from my purpose and from feeling aligned with the work that I do are the times when I was really falling prey to comparison, when I was judging myself based on the people around me. Comparison actually even pits us against each other to a certain extent. I'll never forget that feeling of, I think I've told this story before on the podcast. There was another orthodontic practice in my town where I was practicing, and a new patient was right at the beginning of my practice, early days when I had my scratch start practice, and I had started with not one patient. And, we opened our doors. So every patient was precious. We were getting one new patient every now and then. And we'd taken this huge loan. So every new patient was precious. And I'll never forget my front desk, incredible receptionist, who, by the way, was my nanny. So she'd look after my kids in the morning and then I'd get them off to school. And then she'd come to work at the office. We were literally starting from nothing. She took a call and the woman said, "Oh, I'm here for my appointment, but they're telling me I'm in the wrong place." She'd gone to the wrong office. She'd gone to the other orthodontist's office across town. I don't remember how that happened. I don't think that happened again in the years to follow, but she was at the other orthodontic office. And what happened? Instead of letting them know that she was in the wrong place and giving them directions to us, they scooped her up and gave her a new patient exam in their office. And I was mortified. I was so upset. And immediately the comparison game started. And it really robbed me of an opportunity to see the incredible good in the moment. It really made me just start judging the other orthodontist. It made me feel bitter and angry. And I started comparing myself to her. I started comparing my office to her. I started trying to defend myself to my husband that night. And I lost the beauty of the moment. I lost the whole point was that I was now an orthodontist practicing. My dream was coming true. And although in that moment it felt so hard and heavy, I was actually doing what I set out to do. We were treating patients. And even though that patient didn't make it into my chair that day, many others did. And years down the line, that was such a tiny moment. That was such an insignificant moment. But what I remember is the comparison that it triggered. And that comparison robbing me of seeing the beauty in my own practice, the beauty of what I was doing. I mean, here I was. I had dreamt of starting this practice. It was different from every other practice that I knew. It had an empowerment message. It had a feel unlike any other dental practice. I had hired a interior designer who did homes. She'd never done a dental practice before, so it felt like a upscale home when you walked in. And I loved the energy of the space. I had a vision for my practice, and it was now real. It was real in my office, in this building. I was so proud of it. And comparison robbed me of that beauty. So I invite you to just consider when you're looking over the past year and you're taking with you some lessons from what you've experienced in 2025, when you're looking over these different components in your life, can you set down comparison And can you allow for discernment to come from inside you? Letting go of the noise of other people's opinions or other people's perspectives. And let's face it, most of the time, it's our perception of their perspectives. It's our perception of their expectations. We don't even know what they're thinking. And can you just allow yourself to get really quiet with yourself and feel into the experience that you just had? To be honest with you, at this time of year, I think there's a lot of emotion that can come up because you probably had a lot that you didn't process during the year. Maybe there was some loss. Maybe you lost friendships or people passed, or you had disappointments, or maybe there was a dream that you held that you've lost, and you're allowed to experience sadness and grief. And maybe during the year, you didn't have that opportunity. So allowing yourself to just feel into, how do I feel about the year? How do I feel about my finances without comparing it to everyone else? You know, I loved for a long time our financial advisor, and I still do. We partner with a financial advisor that's very common, a very big group that works with many dentists and orthodontists. And my husband and I still work with them. And they've led us in a beautiful direction. I'm so grateful. But the one time that it would get me a little bit uncomfortable is when we started doing the comparisons. Let's see how you rank amongst all the other orthodontists. And every time I judged myself, even if I was doing really well compared to all the other orthodontists, isn't there that part of you that thinks, oh, well, I can do even better? Our ego kind of gets in the way and we start thinking, well, I did this much last time. Let me do even more this time. And that actually speaks to another moment of comparison when we start comparing our growth to years past and we don't look at the whole. One of my clients was recently saying to me, I am really worried about my finances this year because every year we grow and this is the first year we didn't grow and I'm feeling really stressed out about it. So she was comparing this year to the years past. And when we stepped back and we looked, she actually had a phenomenal year. There were a lot of big life moments for her that happened this year. She felt really disconnected from her leadership. She felt really disconnected from her practice. There were moments in the year where she thought she was going to just sell her practice. And so she really stepped away from her practice energetically to just allow herself space and time to think about, is this even what I want? And still, her practice was thriving. Still, her practice managed to pay all the bills. Still, her practice was profitable. Still, she had new patients. So what? She didn't grow at the same rate as the years prior. This was a year that was kind of self-reflective. This was a year where she was coming back to herself and trying to ask herself the deeper questions of what is important to me. So comparing it to years past was just robbing her of the beauty of what was there. She owns a practice that did really well this year, even when she disconnected, even when she wasn't at her fully engaged self in the practice, even when she wasn't leading in the capacity that she loves to lead, even when she took more time off, the practice still did so well. And it's still there now. So notice how comparison actually took away that clarity and robbed her of the ability for discernment and stepping into greater empowerment. So why is it so important to be in empowerment? Because it's from that place that we make more aligned decisions. When we make decisions from a place of feeling empty or less than or not good enough or disempowered, that's when we start making reactive decisions, those kind of, fight or flight decisions. And we create intentions for the new year that maybe won't serve us. But when we do it from a place of deeper discernment and let go of comparison, now we can get back in touch with what is true for me. So many people, I know this is true for my journey in dentistry. You get to a point in your life where you wake up and you think, oh my gosh, I just woke up and I'm the owner of a practice and I have 3 kids and I have a house and I have a mortgage and I have all these responsibilities. How did I get here? Did I even choose any of these along the way? Or was I just doing what everyone else told me to do, or taking the next step because that was the thing you did? And now at this time of year, we get to have a moment of reflection and discernment of what is true to me. But it does require taking a step back and asking yourself, am I comparing myself? Or is this really what I want for me? It requires getting back into your body and out of your own head, out of the rules that the dental industry, that society, that maybe your parents or your religion or your community has made for you, and asking yourself, what is true for me? And what I find is when I give myself permission to just get really quiet with myself, when I put aside the time of not doing, but actually give myself permission to do a little breathwork practice or meditation practice or journaling practice, and give myself actual minutes to move out of being so consumed by the influence of everything outside of me, I actually find great clarity. And if I notice that little comparison stepping in again, oh, but she's doing this, or the industry is doing that, or last year you did this much, I give myself permission to have so much grace because I operated like that for decades. So of course that old operating pattern wants to sneak in every now and then because sometimes it feels safer. Well, if I can compare myself to someone else, then I know where the standard is. But every time we do that, we actually abandon ourselves in doing so. And if there's one thing I've heard from women dentists more than anything is, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want anymore. I don't know what my purpose here is. We get to take a small step towards that knowing by allowing ourselves to just drop the comparison, especially at this time of year, especially when we're making intentions for the year ahead. So I ask you, what feels true to you? There really is no wrong answer, because maybe what's true for you this year has never been true for you before. Maybe what's true for you now is not true for anyone else. And choosing to trust yourself, choosing to trust that inner wisdom, knowing that you cannot make a mistake, because any choice you make, you can always change your mind. Whatever you choose for your focus and attention in the upcoming year, if it's an intention around money or your health or your family or your friends or a practice in your own life, a spiritual practice or an emotional or an energetic practice, it doesn't matter what you choose as an intention, you can always change your mind. And this is where our power sets in. For too long, we've held ourselves so rigid to rules, both in the industry and in society. And we've forgotten the power of fluidity, the power to continue to ask yourself, does this feel good? Is this still aligned for me? Because what is so magical year after year after year and inevitable is your growth and your getting to know yourself in a deeper way. That's the whole point of this journey, my friends. That's the whole point of this journey on earth, this walk in this meat suit as a human being, is to learn more about who you are and what matters most to you, and to continue to let go of the opinions of others, of the expectations of others, and to recognize and trust that inner voice. So congratulations as we end 2025. Congratulations, whatever you move through this year. Congratulations on letting things go. And congratulations on stepping one step closer to that discernment of knowing who you are. Because when you are in alignment with that, that is when you make decisions for not only for your greater good, but for the greater good of everyone around you. As a dentist, as a daughter, as a healthcare provider, as a leader, as a parent, when you're in alignment with what's true for you, that is when we have really powerful impact on this world, leading with light, leading with your value system, knowing that when you feel good, that is when you can do good. So my question to you is on this reflection of the year gone by, what has helped you feel good? When do you feel good In your body, yes, but in your heart, even more important. Allowing that to be your guiding light for the year ahead. Sending you so much love, the end of this year and stepping into the next. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.